I want to start with a story. And the story is about an old man who in his last years of life was trying to discover the truth of this thing called adversity. And he had made the comment that his whole life he had never run into anybody that did not have any type of adversity at all. But he was curious and he said, I won't, before I die, I want to find out. And so he took an old tattered notebook and a pencil that he could barely write with, and he took off and he went door to door. And he continued to go, and at the end of a long day, he'd look at his ledger and say, haven't found anybody yet. He'd go out again the next day, in bad weather, in good weather, and he continued on. Now, this fellow was a little old, so it was grinding on him, and he got to the point where he thought, I just don't know if I've got much more energy to do this, but I'm going to try one more day. He went up and down and up and down and up and down. In the end, he said, there may be somebody out there, but in my entire 90-year-old life, I haven't found him. I wrote a book that's not published yet, but it's called Rebound Forward, and that's really the title of my message. When we get knocked down, like we all have been, in small and in large measures, we've got to get back up. That's the rebound part of it. The forward part is really the essential part. And what I really want to try to deliver to you today is what we do with that. Somebody said, well, that's a great title for a basketball book. And I said, I really didn't mean it to be, but a forward in basketball and a rebound in basketball sounds pretty good, but I did not do that on purpose, I promise. I want you to think about this. Of all the things that can happen to us, I think there's a road that splits. And this is kind of where I come in. Because the one thing we need to do, now I'm not talking about stubbing your toe. Now that's adversity, by the way. All right? And sometimes the best side of us doesn't come out as soon as we stub our toe. It might be a little profanity here and this and that. But it is something that we run into every single day. I'm talking about the real life-defining adversity. What do you do? And how do you handle it? Whether it happens to you, your spouse, someone in your family, your parents, or your children. And your reaction is no good. Your response is better. I know when I react to something, usually the first thought and the first thing I want to say are damaging. They're not the right, usually it's about my ego and me trying to get even with somebody. You think about maybe a situation at work and someone comes to you with constructive criticism and boy, we want to get defensive right away and we want to tell our side of the story. I'm terrible in reaction. I'm much better in responding. And if I respond, that means I'm going to take a step back and a deep breath and maybe shut the door and maybe entertain what part of what was just said could be true. In the throes of life-changing adversity, you have a choice. We all know we have to work through it. First of all, you may decide not to get up. Because when these things knock us down, our first choice is, can I get up and am I going to get up? You have to get up. If you don't, the game's over and you don't win. Once you get up, what are you going to do? Please ask someone for help. Don't do it alone. The path that goes here is the healthy path. That's the path of nurturing. That's the path that will strengthen you for the next time that something happens, to make you even better and more resilient. Figure out where you're at in terms of handling your own adversity that happens and share it with young people. We do not grow up sharing that with young people. We kind of shy away from emotions sometimes. What a gift you could give someone to tell them, listen, when this happens and you feel bad and you want to go do something to make yourself feel better, make the right move. Number 2, and I found it comical that you have the word fair in your principles. That's not the second one. And I just kind of laughed because in my research for this book, I'm not sure there is such thing as fair. What is fair? And when we were born, did someone tell us this is what fair is? If there's no fair, there's no unfair. And how often in adversity do we hear that? A songwriter by the name of Joe South in 1970 wrote Rose Garden, sang by Lynn Anderson. I never promised you a rose garden. We probably all heard that. And I think that's true. I really believe that. I don't think that we enter our life with our families, with our profession, and everything else we do with this baseline of fair. It's either fair or it's unfair. I don't think so. But I think there's a lot of things thrown at us, and then we have to figure out how to deal with them.